Well, good afternoon to you. 406 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Joe Concha will be with us. And Winsome Sears, the Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, joins us in the next hour, 5 o'clock. A lot to talk about with both of them. And you can chat with us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yeah, I got a question here a couple minutes ago about what is a spin room? Spin room at these presidential debates. And I realize I should probably explain them. What ends up happening at these debates is after the candidates are done on stage, they will leave the room and they'll typically go to an adjoining room or auditorium, some kind of big space where a lot of people can fit. In order to meet with members of the media. There are just hundreds of reporters and television cameras and photographers all waiting for the candidates to arrive. And it's kind of neat. You just get a bunch of gaggles where people are all gathered together really tightly around the candidates to ask them questions and see if they can find out what they thought of the debate, what they think of their opponents, those sorts of things. And there's each campaign holds up a sign representing the name of the person that they're with. So it's either, Ron DeSantis or Vivek Ramaswamy tomorrow night. You'll see they'll have signs up in the room, and there will be a rush of reporters who will head over to the sign. And as the candidate walks around the room, the sign follows them around, so it's easy to locate them in the sea of humanity. Now, typically, some of the more professional campaigns or the leading campaigns don't actually send their candidate out. They send out surrogates. They'll send out like a campaign manager or something to speak to the press. But other campaigns, especially the guys who are lower in the polls and are looking to just get any tailwind they can, they'll send the candidate out. And the candidate will mix it up with the press to draw reporters over. Oh, there's an actual candidate over there. And reporters will go over and then they'll chat them up and see what else they can get out of this. But that's how it's set up. Donald Trump loved doing his own spin room, even when he was leading in the polls. He loved it. He didn't let surrogates, by and large, handle the spin room for him. He would just go out and do it. I'm remembering, I'll have to pull out this audio at some point. I've got it saved. I just don't have it accessible easily. But I interviewed Trump a couple times in the spin rooms in 2016 because I went to each of the debates. That was great political tourism. It was a great opportunity to just cover something interesting, American politics up close. And I remember asking Trump after Lester Holt moderated the debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, what he thought of Lester Holt's performance, and he said, I thought he did great. And by this point, I think Corey Lewandowski was off the campaign. He wasn't part of the campaign anymore, and he was instead he was working as a kind of supporting Trump in a separate, on television. And I heard Lewandowski standing right near me, and as soon as Trump said Lester Holt did great, he turns to somebody else next to me and goes, oh, he just said Lester Holt did great. Okay, I've got to say that now. It was just this eye-opening moment. It was pretty funny. So Corey Lewandowski goes on TV. Hey, Lester did a great job. He heard Trump say it moments before. Anyway, it's a cool thing. But Trump won't be a part of it. And the reason the spin room even came up in my conversation with Madison Jeziota over at the RNC is because Fox has apparently denied Trump surrogates access to the spin room tomorrow night because they say, I guess the logic here is Trump is not participating in the debate, so you don't get access to the spin room. Now, I have two thoughts on this. One, he's so obviously the front runner that they should let the surrogates represent him in that room so that reporters can talk to everybody. A. B, how lazy do you have to be as a reporter not to just walk outside and talk to the Trump surrogates? So if the Trump surrogates are going to be locked out, they can just stand outside the building. If you're a journalist, do you need everything spoon-fed to you? Well, I only do interviews if you put every single person in the same room. No, just walk outside, talk to the Trump surrogates. So this is easily resolved. The Trump surrogates can be there, even if they're not in the same room, and they can stand up for Donald Trump. All right, we'll take some of your phone calls here, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Oh, yes, and thank you for reminding me. Corey reminds me. The DNC, their plans for tomorrow night for the debate, they are going to be flying a sign over the debate. One of those banners that you fly behind airplanes, kind of like if you ever go to the Jersey Shore, you'll see these things flying all around with advertisements and things. And they've booked a plane to fly above the debate site above Milwaukee on Wednesday night, dragging a banner around that says GOP 2024, a race for the extreme MAGA base, which makes sense. Because if the DNC had an answer to the Republican debate, it would be to throw a drag show. That's right, to drag a sign around in midair. There is one other obvious point to make about the airplane that they've decided to hire to fly all over Milwaukee for no reason. It's not transporting goods. It's not transporting people. It's just spewing carbon into the air. They've hired a plane to destroy the planet. By their own logic, they are wasting hours of plane fuel to hurt the planet. So that's a typical Democrat stunt playing out tomorrow night in Milwaukee. All right. Let us take some calls. Jason's in Kensington, and he's calling in on line 1. Jason, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, g'day, Vince. Haven't talked to you for a while. I see you've been living it up a little bit.
I've been living it up, brother, but I'm back.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, I mean, this Biden reaction to Hawaii is nothing short of disgusting. I've got to know a lot of the Hawaiian people over the last 30-odd years of travelling there, surfing, and they know what's up. They know what's going down. I mean, I know Hawaii's traditionally been a pretty stronghold Democrat, but I think after this, I think it's sort of shown a pretty big light on their party and just what they're all about, and where Biden's loyalties lie. It's with Ukraine and whoever else besides your constituents. I mean, look at East Palestine and that place. I mean, it's just an absolutely, just sickening reaction that he's put out for these people. I mean, they deserve so much better. I mean, people are still dying. People still haven't been found. Here he is saying either no comment or sort of smirking about it. It's like he's a joke.
He took a break from his multiple vacations to finally go to Hawaii. He had to be browbeaten into doing it because he had been ignoring Hawaii. When asked about the destruction there, he said no comment. And eventually, in the fallout to all of this, the White House finally decided to schedule a trip to send him there. He goes there.
Amazing.
He spins a disgraceful yarn about his own experience with fire when he was younger. It's a lie. He pretends that his whole house was on fire and that he was about to lose the house and his wife almost died and his cat almost died and he almost lost his precious Corvette. And it's all a lie. It's not true. He was referencing a small kitchen fire that was resolved pretty quickly. And yet he just lies. And then he's joking. He's falling asleep at events. It's embarrassing, Jason.
It is embarrassing. I mean, not to mention that, but also, checking his watch at the Dover Air Force Base when soldiers are coming in from his bungled exit from Afghanistan. I mean, I just don't get people voting for this. I mean, they keep saying, well, I don't want to vote because I didn't want the other guy to get in. That's just a stupid way to sort of deal with that. I mean, he just, the guy's a dunce. He's an absolute drongo, and his family should be ashamed that they've actually put him up for election. I mean, the guy's obviously not there. It's just this is probably the darkest time I've ever seen in American history, besides being at war.
Yeah, it's bad. And he's like, I'm sorry, let me pause for a moment. You use the word drongo to reference him? That's not something. Is that an Australian expression?
Oh, sorry. It is. It's a bird we have in Australia that's kind of dopey. Sort of like, I guess I use dodo over here, but we have drongos.
Okay. Common. Oh, good. I just want to make sure I understand it so I can, put it into my rotation. He's a drongo. And then one other thing, Jason, and you're bringing up so many good points as you so often do. People do act like this is unique to Biden, but it's not unique to Biden. There are a lot of these Democrat politicians. Obama was the same way. Obama was not quite. He was a little smoother than Biden in terms of presentation, but he was just as narcissistic and full of himself, which is just repeating myself here, as Biden is. I remember every holiday, every major event, every drama, every scandal, Obama's Twitter account was putting out photos of himself to reference it. Yeah. At one point they were marking a commemoration of Rosa Parks, and they tweeted out, "Today we remember Rosa Parks," and they posted a photo of Obama sitting in her chair on the bus.
Yeah.
What does Obama have to do with this story? You weren't there. What are you doing?
Yeah, forget about that. Look at me. That's what it's all about.
Every time.
It's branding. They're all branding each other. But, yeah, and also your last guest, the RNC lady, I mean, what they've got to do is, I'm not convinced with the RNC. I mean, if they want people to be loyal to the party and donate money, get behind the obvious candidate. The way they sort of step around, the way they explain how he's, oh, no, we're going to welcome him. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, Jason, thank you very much. As always, appreciate your contributions. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, mate.
Let me take. Oh, look at this. Calling in from line 7, Colin Anderson, the political editor over at the Washington Free Beacon, is calling in. Hello, Colin.
Hey, Vince. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. So, all right. I believe the reason you're calling in is about this DNC plane. Tomorrow, the Democrats are flying an airplane over the Republican debate with a banner trying to pick on the Republicans. But I was saying a moment ago that this plane is going to be belching out a whole lot of carbon. Have you dug into this?
Yeah, we have. So if you're not up to speed, the DNC is very adamant that there is a climate crisis going on. They're also very adamant that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are not good. So tomorrow night, they're paying to fly a plane. This is according to Politico with the banner, GOP 2024, a race for the extreme MAGA base. And so we decided we would go in and crunch some numbers as to the sort of carbon footprint, as I'm told, is a very important exercise that this plane may be emitting. And what we found is that in the 2-hour debate, the single-engine plane, it's often Cessnas that are used for these sorts of things, would emit right around 4 times as much carbon as the average American produces in a day. And that's just in a couple of hours. And what I think is so especially interesting and comical here is the idea that when you look at the DNC's climate change policy platform, they specifically mention, number one, that we have no time to take action here. Action needs to be taken now. Number two, that young Americans are suffering from the impacts of what they call runaway carbon pollution for decades to come. But Democrats believe there is a better way. Apparently, the better way here is to fly this plane over Milwaukee, which is a city, I might add, that nearly 70% of Wisconsin's black population lives in Milwaukee. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because the DNC also says on this climate policy platform that climate change, specifically air pollution stemming from climate change, disproportionately impacts communities of color. And if you're reading that in Milwaukee right now, congrats, you get a plane overhead.
Yeah, we should. Night. Yeah, they should do like an air raid siren warning or something over Milwaukee tomorrow. To let the black population of Milwaukee know that the DNC is carpet bombing them with an airplane that they're going to be flying for no reason all over the city. Can we convert the amount of environmental damage they're doing to the number of baby seals that would be clubbed, for instance? Is flying this plane the equivalent of clubbing 60 baby seals? Would you say that's some good math, Colin?
It could be. I mean, we're seeing that. We're seeing the whales in some of these spots offshore on the East Coast. That apparently is something that you're not allowed to talk about, or this is climate misinformation, according to the Biden administration's Energy Department.
Yes.
You make a good point, which is that these climate statistics can seem quite far-fetched and sort of pie in the sky if you don't have a tangible thing to compare them to. So I'd be curious to crunch those numbers.
Yeah, we have no time. We have no time to save the planet, which is why we're buying an airplane to express that message. All right, Colin Anderson, thank you very much for the call from the Washington Free Beacon. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And for doing the journalism. He did the journalism. It's 4:20 now. Let's head back to the phones. Charles is calling in from Fairfax on line 3. Charles, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Vince. Welcome back, brother. It's nice to hear you back.
Thank you, sir.
Listen, I have to agree with Jason. We spent a lot of time out in the islands, too, and those people aren't very stupid. And I think what they saw from our current president yesterday was not very impressive to them. But if I were living in the islands now, I'd be wondering where was our most famous person that was born in Hawaii in the 20th century, hasn't made a comment or a statement, and he has a big estate on the island of Oahu. and his name was Barack Hussein Obama II, our two-term president.
Yeah, baby.
Where has he been in all of this?
Yeah, in Hawaiian history, recent Hawaiian history at least, the big names are Captain Cook, King Kamehameha, and Barack Hussein Obama. Where is Barack? How come he's not going back? And the answer to that, Charles, is it doesn't affect his house in Kailua. It has nothing to do with him or his palatial living circumstances on the eastern side of Oahu. So now he's not going to, who cares? Western Maui? Pfft, he doesn't have time for that, Charles.
Yeah, but Vince, the people in the islands don't think like that. They know this man was born there. They know he has a big estate there, and I'm sure all of them are wondering the same thing. And they also know that he's the one who's responsible for putting Biden in the presidency. So that should pretty well take care of that.
Yeah, no, you're right though, Charles. Where is Obama here? I mean, even Jeff Bezos has figured out a way to dig up $100 million to help out Hawaii. Not so much from Obama. No support there. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate the phone call. Let's see here. Joe is calling in from Waldorf, now on line 4. Joe, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
How you doing, Vince?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
I love your show.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell you that I do spray foam insulation, polyurea coatings and stuff.
Okay.
And one of my suppliers, I talked to him a couple years ago. You know, most of your foams are like 2-pound density, half-pound density. So you'd use to insulate a house or something. And then they have heavier. I was talking to him about heavier formulations they had. They're much harder. They use like a 10-pound foam in chicken houses on the eastern shore.
Okay.
Insulate the houses so the chickens can't peck at it.
Yep.
And I was telling him they go thicker than that. He said, well, we go up to a 30-pound foam. I said, what the hell would you use a 30-pound foam for? He said, well, in Hawaii, all the telephone poles are supposed to last 20 to 30 years. And these poles were getting eaten out internally by termites that were eating out the pole. They're like paper thin on the outside. The wind would blow, they'd snap off and start a fire.
Well, this, Joe, thank you for that call. I didn't know that detail. It doesn't surprise me because as I was saying yesterday, you look at the numbers here. How do poles, these telephone poles all across western Maui, fall in 60-mile-per-hour winds? That may be the answer, and it involves, yet again, local officials failing to look after their people and their infrastructure. A lot of wild stories out of Hawaii. We'll get into more details with Joe Concha on the president's visit to Maui yesterday in just a moment. I still love, I'm just cracking up. I just love that Jason in Kensington referred to Joe Biden as a drongo, a stupid bird from Australia. I really do have to put that into rotation. Coming up, the Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Winsome Sears, is here with us today. At 5 o'clock, we'll talk to her about her new book, How Sweet It Is, Defending the American Dream. We'll also ask her about these school systems in Virginia that are in open revolt right now against the governor, against her, the lieutenant governor, of course, and against the people of Virginia who voted for them in the first place. There's an insurrection going on in Virginia. How does the lieutenant governor plan on handling it? We'll talk to her about that coming up at the top of the hour. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Jason and I are not the only people who think that Joe Biden is a drongo. In Maui, the residents there, well, this is the welcome that Joe Biden received. We've censored it for your listening pleasure.
All right. Here it comes. Here it comes after 13 days.
Wow, he's finally here.
Wow,
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for nothing. Hey, right here. Hey, you, Joe Biden. You.
Good job, guys. Yes, sir.
Good job, guys. All these guys standing outside as the presidential motorcade swings by in Maui, a crowd of people all saying no mahalo to Joe Biden's arrival. Didn't somebody get elected to a local school board for raising their middle finger to a president of the United States? That was Julie Briskman. Remember her? Yeah, she joined. She became an elected official thanks to all of that. So those guys should probably run Hawaii based on the rules that the left has arranged for us. So that's the reception that Joe Biden received. After 13 days, you heard one of them point out, he's finally here. Bleep you. Here's some more from a local news reporter indicating that Maui residents were very unimpressed by Biden's arrival.
Over to my right, there are a bunch of people out here. They've been here for hours. A bunch of them are protesting. They have their makeshift signs, cardboard signs, a lot of them saying, as we've been talking about, that he's too late. Some of them feel that he should have been here much earlier. Other signs that say actions speak louder than words. So hearing a lot from the people here, as well as Hawaiian flags.
Yeah. So people unimpressed by that. I know one of the things the administration did was cut $700 checks to people in the area. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to receive ungodly sums of money. Western Maui, not so much, as there are still many, many hundreds of people missing, a lot of bodies still being discovered, cadaver dogs roaming the area. Joe Biden arrives. He pretends to empathize with the plight of the ruined community there. And here is Joe Biden yesterday literally making up a story.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday. And lightning struck at home.
By the way, notice that the story is about him and that he's so important. He was on Meet the Press that day.
On a little lake, it's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond. And hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded.
He just lied and made up all of that. At the time of that kitchen fire that did take place, the local fire chief, George Lamborn, told the Associated Press, quote, "Luckily, we got it pretty early. The fire was under control in 20 minutes. The AP reported it was a small fire contained to the kitchen. Jill Biden is the one who reported it to emergency services." The New York Post editorial board says today that this is Joe Antoinette Biden lying to survivors, making it all about himself in Hawaii. They say, quote, "This never happened." It's just embarrassing, isn't it? For more on this, we turn to Joe Concha. He is a student of the president's insanity. He's a columnist for The Messenger, a Fox News contributor, and he wrote the book, Come On, Man, The Truth About Joe Biden's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Presidency. Joe, good afternoon to you.
Hey, Vince. You know, in researching that book, and I put a lot of months into it, I'll say this right now to your audience. Of all the things that he's lied about throughout his life, and there are dozens upon dozens of major examples, this is the worst. This is the worst thing that I have ever heard. And I'm not going to say that, oh, it's his age and he's confused, because he's told the story many, many times when people didn't think that he was at the stage that he is now as far as his faculties are concerned. But if this were a podcast, I would literally call the sitting president of the United States whatever the acronym of POS stands for, because to go there when children were burned alive, and this is not fake outrage, I'm genuinely angry about this, right? Where hundreds of people are missing. You're looking at a death toll that will probably eclipse the worst fire in U.S. history, and this guy is talking about how he almost lost, like joking, his 67 Corvette, his cat, over a fire that basically didn't happen, and he's trying to say that by, oh, I could relate to you because I went through the same thing. Oh, really? You lost your entire family, Joe? It's not even close. And I wouldn't even call him Mr. President. Joe now at this point. He's on a first-name basis as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, between that and I got to read stories. Did he or did he not fall asleep during
a ceremony honoring those who are missing or dead. Well, I don't know. For 20 seconds, his eyes were closed. And even if, there shouldn't be any ambiguity around this. So I wish America would wake up, and they're not going to wake up because the problem is ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN. You think they're going to cover any of this? No. And if they do, they'll probably defend this guy. And it's like, you know what? Enough. We have to do better as a country than this person that's currently in the Oval Office.
Well, to give you a sense, so you and I are both, of course, talking about reality. But meanwhile, you have a distortion filter called the corporate news media, the left-wing news media, and here's the way they have treated this story. The Washington Post has a piece today, as pointed out by my friend Chuck Ross. Dateline, Lahaina, Hawaii. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden arrived in this grief-stricken community Monday afternoon, touring damage from one of the deadliest wildfires in American history and attempting to channel one of the president's signature traits, comforting those who have lost loved ones. That's the lead on Joe Biden's visit to Maui, which you and I both know was a disheartening, callous disaster.
And that's the thing, Vince. I mean, let's say, I don't know, I'll pick a Republican president, George W. Bush, right? We all saw what happened with Katrina because of one photo of him, unlike Biden, left his vacation in Texas, was flying back to Washington. They flew over New Orleans, and Bush is looking out the window, and that apparently was the end of his presidency. That was a bridge too far, that this guy is flying over. I hate to relitigate this, but Bush couldn't land even if he wanted to because of all the resources that would be obviously dragged out from search and rescue efforts, which were ongoing for thousands of people. So he had no choice. He had to fly over and at least survey the damage that way. And everybody said, oh, it's so insensitive. It's heartless, right? And then you look at his poll numbers, and they just shot down precipitously from there over one photo. What if any Republican president said what Joe Biden said as far as that fake fire story or talking or falling asleep during a ceremony or making it about him or sitting on a beach and saying no comment to reporters over and over again when they asked him for an update on what was going on because I guess nothing was prepared for him. So that's the fallback. If any Republican president acted like this, that would be the end of this presidency. You would see the Jake Cappers of the world and everybody else up in arms, Vince, saying this is unacceptable. Instead, it's silence of the lambs, or we hear what you just read from the Washington Post, which now I guess we know why the Post, in its history, Vince, has never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate, even once, right? So congratulations on endorsing Walter Mondale. You guys are totally in touch with the American people.
It's disgraceful. And reminding me of Katrina, also, it wasn't just the news outlets that acted this way. It was also Hollywood and all of the kind of the influencers and entertainment. You remember it was Kanye West. Kanye West standing there during that relief, television relief special, standing next to Mike Myers, and he says George Bush doesn't care about black people. He says on national television. Mike Myers kind of standing there stunned as this went down. But that was the beginning of a very meaningful shift in sentiment towards George Bush. And you're not seeing the same kind of outcry at all from people who should be speaking up, people with influence, people with big microphones, not calling a spade here as Joe Biden fails American citizens.
Thankfully, though, Vince, and all great points on your part, we have social media now. We did not have it in August of 2005 when Katrina hit. So at least word is getting out by these Paul Reveres that are on Twitter, the Chuck Rosses of the world, the Tom Elliott from Gravian, the Red Steves, obviously, the other Stephen Miller. At least you have people that are drawing attention to Biden's words and to Biden's actions. And when you look at the views on some of these videos that they're putting up of Biden acting and speaking in the completely inappropriate and just horrible manner that he has, you see that those numbers do go up into the millions as far as people seeing these clips. So the media can try to squash this or cover for this president, but the word is getting out. It would be helpful if the ABC, NBC, CBS Evening News, which, if you combine the numbers on their viewership, is still $20 million. It would be helpful if they did cover this and at least show you the way the president's been acting or what he said, but they're not. But at the same time, it's not a complete blackout because of social media and outlets like the Daily Caller and Fox News.
One of the other pieces here, I played some audio before you joined us of the residents of Maui. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to be of the same position. I can probably find some audio somewhere of people being happy that Joe Biden arrived. But we are seeing plenty of audio and video coming out of Maui of residents who are saying this is too little, too late. There's a video of people screaming obscenities at the president's motorcade as he comes by. is as you talk about social media and the way that message gets out there, do you think more and more people are seeing what's going on?
I believe so. Yeah. And Vince, what I keep going back to is a New York Times focus group that Kristen Soltis Anderson ran, and she's good at what she does. I don't think she's a partisan in any way, shape, or form. She's just asking questions. And so they take 11 Joe Biden voters, and they ask him, hey, do you think Joe Biden should run again in 2024? And all 11 answer, no, we don't want him to run again. Hey, do you think Joe Biden has been a strong president? And they all answer, no, he hasn't been a strong president. Then she asked, who are you going to vote for in 2024? And all 11 answered Joe Biden. So then she followed with the obvious question, which was, wait, you said he isn't a strong leader and you don't want him to run again, yet you would vote for him again. And all 11 said, because the alternative scares us. So we'll just vote for Joe Biden not because they love Biden, because they think Trump or DeSantis or whoever the nominee will be, probably Trump. That's something that they cannot accept. So
Right.
I think that's what the election comes down to, a hold your nose election. Who can get the base out more? And, I'm writing a piece right now saying that Donald Trump, hate to shift gears here, Donald Trump should choose Vivek Ramaswamy as his VP. I think that guy I would just selfishly, I would love to see Vivek versus Kamala during a debate, and that would basically get like Tyson Spinks in 88, 91 seconds they'd have to call it.
Yeah, and he'd be running circles, or as she likes to say, Venn diagrams around her. He'd be all over the place, and she wouldn't be able to keep up. Last thing on this, just since you just talked about politics, it makes me think, when Donald Trump ran against Biden in 2020, and of course the left had changed the entire way we vote, and now of course there's talk of COVID once again, and probably some appetite to try and recreate the same circumstances for Biden going into 2024. That aside, Biden does have a record now as president of the United States. Those focus groups that you're talking about do have thoughts about how Biden is performing, and if you look at how close Donald Trump was actually in the 2020 election, it comes down to just a couple of swing states, and the vote separation was something like 20 or 30,000 votes in reality based on the Electoral College. Donald Trump does have, should he become the nominee, as he appears to be destined to as of today, does have a real chance of beating this guy, Joe Biden.
Completely. To your point, Georgia, what would that come down to? About 11,000 votes. Arizona came down to 10,000 votes. Wisconsin, half a percentage point. If those three states go another way, even if he loses Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Nevada, Donald Trump's your president, right? That's the way it would have worked out. It would have been very interesting, actually. It would have been 269 if Trump won Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. And then it would have gone back to the House of Representatives, and somehow Republicans had an advantage there on the state level. I won't even begin to try to explain it to your audience, but Trump would be your president now at this point. So that's all he really has to do. You read these national polls, they drive me crazy. The election comes down to like 6 states. It comes down to Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and then throw in either Nevada or New Hampshire in there, and that's that. Trump seems to have more enthusiasm behind his candidacy right now. I know some people come out and just vote against Trump just because of his personality.
Sure.
But in the end, some people will vote selfishly because it's an economy that's going south. It's crime that's driving people out of major American cities. Education, test scores at a 30-year low. I could go on and on about the border as well. The Ukraine-Russia war is becoming more increasingly unpopular. We're not stuck with China as much as we'd like to be. So you add all that up, and if I had to bet right now, I'd say Donald Trump would win a very close race against Joe Biden.
4 years ago, my grocery store didn't have to lock one of its doors to prevent retail theft. It was like my life was was a lot better 4 years ago, and so it's all so crazy, and I think a lot of Americans recognize that difference, and hopefully want to bring us back to much better times. In the meantime, thank you very much, Joe Concha. Always good to talk to you, sir. All right, let's take a call. Anna calling in from Georgia, line 3. Anna, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I looked up that Joe Biden and his wife being in Hawaii, and I looked at some of the video. I don't know if you noticed this, but what I noticed was him walking around, glad-handing and schmoozing local officials. Everybody I saw him talk to, shake hands with, had a uniform, or was with the government. And I just thought what he did was despicable.
Yeah.
But what made it even worse was that there were, as far as I could see, maybe you can correct me, where are these poor, grieving people from Maui who have lost everything, including maybe their children, loved ones, family members, but everything on earth? Where were they? They were kept away. They were kept far, far away from this bumbling idiot. And these, they're just despicable people, self-centered people. He didn't go there to be what the commander-in-chief, what the president of the United States is supposed to be, which is to comfort people, talk to people, listen to people. We saw Trump do that. And he didn't do that. So all the people who want to, pile on Trump need to stop and think for a minute about who is in charge of this country right now, because he's being highly managed.
They used to say things like, this is not who we are, right? Remember, they would always say phrases like that. This is not who we are as a people. No, it's that's certainly the case today. That man, Joe Biden, that's not who we are. We're better than that. We're a lot better than that. And we need to right this ship. Coming up, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears will join us. We'll talk to her about various school boards across the Commonwealth of Virginia in open revolt against the voters. What's going to happen? We'll ask her the question coming up.